How the frick do you make friends as an adult if you don't drink? Story 1. Hobbies. Edit. Too many comments to reply to. Thanks for the awards, however, put it towards charity. I don't have any use for them. Hobbies alone was a broad statement. Basically, the goal is to meet new people. Seek discomfort is a good phrase and a good model presentation of how to meet new people. Google their YouTube channel. Hobbies can be good, but it's hard to find small groups that have no internet presence. Volunteering, charity work, etc. is more aimed at helping X while you benefit in socializing. My anecdote, others may vary. The other fishing, hunting, etc. groups come from making connections. Door knocking, leaving letters, etc., asking for permission, and slowly building a blue book of properties to hunt and fish while cleaning up their property in return. Plus, you can ask if they want me to take anyone in their family with me, or can I bring a person over, etc., after trust is built. Lastly, if anyone reads my handle, it's okay to be alone. I'm alone, but not lonely. I have Reddit to come socialize with you guys. But it's okay to only have a few friends you connect with. The key aspect of friendship is respect. If they don't respect your time, nor you as a person, as you do them, they aren't your friend. Edit. The YouTube channel isn't seeking discomfort, that's their catchphrase. It is yes theory, without the quotations. I second this. It's significantly easier to make friends and connect, especially if you're shy, if you have mutual interests. Even if you don't share the same level of enjoyment in the hobby, it's also a great way to get closer to someone if you do already know them, and opens up an opportunity to have them talk about themselves so you can learn more about them and who they are. This is a great point. I recently picked up fishing as a hobby. I would always greet the other people I saw rather briefly. Over time, those greetings turned to questions about what they're doing versus what you're doing. Taking the time to listen to them is almost more important than having something interesting to say in return. Friendships aren't a physical achievement. They aren't something that should even be focused on or forced. If you focus on being interested in what another person says and show it in the way you act and speak, they are more likely to speak to you again. Then, at some point, you will realize that that person is your friend, as that process repeats itself, and more casual and personal things are exchanged and spoken of. This is exactly how I befriended a guy more than double my age. We now share big fish catches and cool dinners we made. It's a friendship that still surprises me, and it makes me feel good. It happens whether you think of it or not. It's a process, not a destination. What happens when your hobbies are all isolating? I love to read and play single-player video games, and like farming sims and Mario-type games, doesn't invite the crowds. I do actually participate with BookTube a lot for a way to be social with reading, but I've yet to make friends from it. But it is nice to find strangers to talk to about books. Are book clubs still a thing? Going to the library could be an option. The librarian may be able to suggest some events or get-togethers for readers. Just wanted to add an extra shout-out to librarians. They do tons more than just exchange books and are a great community resource. Story 2. The friends that I've made in adulthood were not made through boozy social situations, even though I'm Irish and we love our boozy socials. I've made friends through work and through hobbies. I love taking fun classes. I like taking dance classes mostly, and when you're going to the same class week in, week out, you get talking to the other people at the class, and friendships can blossom. You can be friendly and smiley and strike up a bit of conversation, and from that, you build up a bit of rapport. I made friends by asking a couple of the girls if they'd like to grab a coffee after class, and then it became a weekly thing, coffee after class. It doesn't have to be dance. Any kind of class works, even if it's an educational one. Evening classes are a great place to make new friends. Then, and I know everyone's workplace is different, certainly mine is very easy to make friends. Through work, you can make some nice friends. Sit with people at lunch hour instead of eating at your desk or in your car. Chat to people during the workday and find out things about them. If they have a family, if they have any hobbies, etc. Then, when you build up a bit of friendliness, ask them if they'd like to go for lunch. Or, yes, I know, again, a coffee after work, and so forth. It definitely helps to be friendly and outgoing. I'm not naturally outgoing, but I am naturally a very friendly person, so I guess that makes me approachable. So try to be approachable and learn the art of small, friendly talk. I think this might depend where you live. I'm Northern English, and this is how I've made friends in adulthood. My Southern friends think it's really weird, though. I introduced them to a friend, and it was something like, "Where did you two meet?" "Here, in the pub." "Oh, right. So were you introduced to each other by someone else?" "No." "So how did you get chatting?" I don't know. We were just in the pub." Seemed odd to them. I think it's just personality more than anything. Growing up, my family referred to it as being an elevator talker. My mom is one. The rest of my family is not. I have a friend I met through my wife who is also like this. He has a large extended friend group, and half the people he's friends with, he just randomly met out and about. And you couldn't distinguish those people from his childhood friends and relatives if you didn't have it pointed out. Whereas I, from the same state, find that utterly bizarre. But do like most of the people he's managed to pick up in his wake. Just oddly reminds me that one of the best friends I've ever had, I met randomly on a bus. I was 19, just moved to a new city from the middle of nowhere. It was a huge step for me, and I was basically alone. I was on public transportation, heading to a job interview at a call center that's hiring multiple positions. I figured it was an easy score to get on my feet, so I headed out. A guy sitting diagonally from me when I sat down, we kept making eye contact randomly for some reason. I could really feel this guy's energy. We eventually got to my bus stop, and to my surprise, he stood up too. When we got off the bus, he took off his headphones and asked if I had an interview, as I was clearly dressed up for it, and I said, "Yeah, what about you?" A huge conversation kicked off, as we realized we were going to the same job interview, and we had literally everything in common, and both just moved to this new city. It was literally the universe's work, and it still boggles our brains to think about to this day. Edit. We both got the job. Story 3. The closest I've gotten to making new friends is through, number 1, my kids' sports. Just hanging with the other parents, or coaching teams. I don't consider any of them to be friends, but we enjoy hanging out and shooting the breeze at games. Shooting the breeze with a mailman, but once sports are over, I'll never see them again. But if I run into them randomly, I'm sure we'll chat for a minute. Solid acquaintances. Number 2, video games. Just having a regular group of randoms on a server regularly is nice. I play a racing game, and the others are typically all from other countries. But text chat is fun, and it's at least interaction with people I don't live with. If I really wanted friends, I'd probably have to go back in time and do a better job keeping in touch with my old group of buddies. Beyond here is an edit due to "it's never too late to keep in touch" reply. Edit. Yes, I agree it's usually never too late, but when you literally don't even know what to say or talk about with an old friend who was a very good friend, and you're hoping that you can just talk about their kids' sports, I think it's pretty dang late. But this happens to millions of people. It's normal, and I don't dwell or recommend anyone else dwell on it. My parents, mid-70s, moved into a 55-plus housing community, houses, not assisted living, and they've made friendly with neighbors, play cards, pop in for a drink on occasion, so maybe it gets easier later. And I'm not really sad about not having friends. I'm a bit to myself and enjoy short, earnest conversations with the many people I've gotten to know. Maybe because my wife and I are insufferable buttholes, but we can't stand most of the parents of the kids on my son's baseball team. They're like carbon copies of the worst Karen you've ever met. Youth sports is a super weird place. If it isn't a city league like any kind of travel, it gets worse. Coached travel soccer for years, every parent is convinced their son is messy. Out of hundreds of kids I've coached, 8 have played in a legitimate professional setting, MLS or Europe. I explained to one parent, "Ma'am, I'm trying to drag your kid to a JUCO scholarship. Professional soccer isn't on his radar unless we see significant development." In response to her questioning regarding his professional prospects, he was the worst defender on our roster. The only thing my coach ever told my mom was, "He's a great goalie, part of the reason we're at 0 losses, but he needs to learn to block the ball with something other than his face." I was really working on heading at the time, but I was very bad at it. I thought I could get better by blocking the goal with it. I was a stupid kid, but I was a decent goalie. That statement gets brought up a lot at family gatherings. Story 4. Am currently in recovery and have absolutely no freaking friends. 4 years into recovery, heroin, and 0 friends. Moved to a new state to get clean and just talk to family and people at work, but I'm in my 30s and had a really fun, robust social life until my late 20s when I somehow got into drugs. So I don't feel like I'm missing anything, though it'd be nice to hang. If I went to NA or AA, I'm sure I'd find friends, but there's too much relapsing in those rooms, and I'm sick of people I know dropping dead. A little over 5 years clean from heroin here, made some close acquaintances in NA early on, but so many of my friends have died that I think my brain just doesn't let me get close enough to anyone to be friends. I quit going to NA after a few years clean, and while I greatly appreciate the support I got from the rooms early on, I just kind of drifted away from it. It's weird. I've always been a really sociable person, and I had so many friends in high school. I went to prison for a while in my early 20s, and my cellmate, a guy in his 60s, told me that you can only count your true friends on one hand, and you can find out who they are by calling them from prison and seeing if they answer. Only 2 of them answered, and they're both dead now. I still sometimes talk to a guy I was really close with for most of my childhood, but we don't hang out or anything. I have a girlfriend, and I play Destiny online with a few people pretty regularly. They're probably the closest thing I have to friends. I just don't see myself ever making new friends, and honestly, I'm not even very sad about that. Maybe it was all the time in jails, prisons, rehabs, but I just kind of learned to be okay alone. I didn't get any other choice, you know? Story 5. One of my good friends came from Tinder. We met for 2 dates. After the second date, I asked him what's up. He said he's not attracted physically at all, but he likes hanging out. I liked hanging out with him as well. It's really nice and fun and relaxed. So from then on, we hung out in many restaurants and trips abroad together as friends. He's a fun buddy to do stuff with. But now we're planning to double date with our significant others, maybe even a couples trip together. On dating apps, I always had a fun first date. Go-karts, Topgolf, small concerts. If you go right at dinner, movie, frick, you won't really learn much about each other. You might meet someone fun, and if not, you can duck out and they can find a new group. My approach was always coffee or happy hour for a first meeting. It's not even a date, just 2 people who are in the market to meet someone, having a conversation and seeing if there's potential chemistry. This was when I was single in my early 40s after a divorce. I was upfront. A first meeting would be the same as if we were both in line at Starbucks and we struck up a conversation in line, got our coffee, and kept talking. This was one way people met in the great before online dating. Advantages to this approach: even if you buy, you're out less than $20. You aren't locked into a long activity if the spark isn't there. Dinner, you're captive till the meal is done. It reduces the pressure of being a date, but you know that the other person is likely available if things go well. The most important thing, I think, is that you go into it with 0 expectations and with only the goal of spending some time getting to know another human being. Story 6. I've made quite a few friends from online dating over the years. We get on, but there's no attraction. How do you pivot from strangers to dating to friends? All I get is people I met and never hear from again. In my experience, it usually involves going on an actual date with them. Sometimes it's just not there for a relationship, but you can still appreciate them as a person or a friend. Other times we end up following each other on social media and becoming friends through that. Way back when a certain site had analytics published and insightful blogs, it came out that dating, in the main, varies by location. My major metro is full of young, ambitious 20-somethings who've moved across the country to make it. That's a different mindset than someone who has lived their life in a community and instead views the app as a way to meet across the sliding doors. The commuter that's always just 15 minutes later than you, the people who walked on the other side of the street, etc. So while it may be possible, the likelihood and frequency in, say, St. Paul versus New York City are going to be way, way different. Or like a lot of communities related to them. Had a cousin who lived in a small farming community that her family had lived in for generations. Puberty hit and she would see a boy she liked at school. She quickly learned she needed to double-check the name quickly with grandma to see if they were related. Story 7. Adults don't care if you drink. Now, many adults do enjoy drinking, but actual adults don't really care if you just want to hang out. I'm in my 30s. I do drink. My wife doesn't. Here's the thing in your 30s. Y'all go to a brewery or some such, well, not so much lately, and the whole group will always have a few people not drinking for any or all of the following reasons. Driving, pregnant, on a prescription that makes it inadvisable, don't feel like it, don't like what's available, the flesh drinks only blood, and generally no one cares if they're a mature group worth hanging out with. Here's the question to ask. Do you mean that you only want to hang out in situations where people aren't drinking? That's a different thing, and a bit more limiting. But seriously, mature adults deal with all sorts of reasons people won't drink. This isn't college. No one thinks your coolness is derived from crushing Miller Lights. The only people I've ever seen ostracized from a group of adults are people who are unpleasant, most frequently because they drank way too much. And honestly, in college, no one worth hanging out with cares either. Story 8. Borrow tools and actually give them back. I've got to consider you a top-tier friend before I'm lending you any tools. A neighbor borrowed one of my cordless drills and actually gave it back. However, I won't lend him any more tools. Why? He thought the drill was too dirty, so he cleaned it in a dishwasher. Edit. Inquiring minds in the comments wanted to know what happened next. First of all, yes, he washed it with the battery, so the battery vented. That's probably the only reason why he admitted to such unconventional cleaning methods. He had to come clean. He offered to buy me a replacement drill, but I've asked for a cash value instead. Bought myself a set of replacement bearings, new battery pack, then blasted a chuck with rust inhibitor, and now I have a like-new drill, plus quite a bit of spare change, and a neighbor that always cleans his gardening tools in a dishwasher. You've got to be kidding. Why would any adult think it's okay to put an electric tool in a dishwasher? How did they make it that far in life being that dumb? Story 9. You see someone doing something you do, or like to do, or are curious, hit them up with a compliment, and then with a follow-up question. Met some of my best friends because I liked the colon they were wearing. Edit. Cologne. Keeping the error. I'm not myself today. Dang you people and the unrelenting colon comments. I love the smell of your colon. Want to be friends? Works for dogs. My dog sniffs other dogs and then is extremely insulted when they try to sniff her. She's basically like, what the frick? This dog is crazy. Macy, you literally sniffed their butt every time she walks away with a surprised Pikachu face that they attempted to sniff hers. She has lots of do as I say, not as I do views about the world though. Story 10. Dungeons and Dragons. The first couple of times, bring some goodies if you want to grease the wheels. Freaking best way to find friends. Went from 2 to 20 in a couple of months. I'm 38 years old and played my first game last week. Well enjoyed, and will be playing again tonight. 35 here, I started about a year ago. I wasn't too sure about it at first, but man is it fun now. Have fun tonight. Story 11. Be passionate about some stuff that adds substance to your life. You don't need a lot of friends. When you talk to people, strangers, coworkers, etc., be your 100% genuine self. This should help you avoid being a doormat. If you find you are still a doormat, you should revisit step 1. My best friend and I really only share a couple things. Our love of gangster rap and 90s hardcore punk. And our beliefs in undying, over-the-top self-empowerment. That's not exactly stuff I hear people talking about at parties. Oh yeah, on my way over, I was bumping some fricking McBreed and yelling at myself in the rearview mirror, "Look at what you've done with your life, motherfricker! How far you've come! Keep fricking going! Crush the opposition, witch! Let's go!" Like I said, be your 100% genuine self. Story 12. I started inviting people from online dating sites who said they were looking for friends to play D&D. Some of them were actually looking for friends. I also started a fencing group in my area and advertised it in relevant Facebook groups. A few people showed up, and now we occasionally do things that aren't fencing related. You guys do chain link or privacy usually? This is what popped into my head first as well. Just a bunch of dudes standing around a field, driving posts in the ground, just getting to know each other. You laugh, but this is what rural landowners and farmers do periodically. Good fences make good neighbors and friends. I grew up rural and was involved in many group fencing projects. Story 13. Join clubs, meetups, activities, hobbies, work, volunteer online, or simply go out to socialize during the day or early evenings. How does this work practically? You can't go up to people in a cafe and join in, or introduce yourself to people in the street. Lots of people say you can go up to a person in the street and be friends. I know we're paranoid, but I think if somebody did that to me, I'd expect them to kill me later. Meetup.com has a lot of planned events that are open to anyone. My own volunteer organization, Toastmasters, also does a lot of online meetups at the moment, but the meetup itself has anything from sports to special interest groups to crafts, really anything. Story 14. Slowly. Hobbies, community involvement, through work, good luck. If you like doing things with your hands, wood, metalwork, fabrics, electronics, or programming, hacker, makerspaces are great. They usually have themed events and classes, as well as social events. That's where I made my current friends when I moved to a new city. wiki.hackerspaces.org/list of hackerspaces. Makerspaces.make.co. Searches for my city, no matches. Sad 3D printer noises. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.